Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Backcourt Press NBA podcast. That's why I'm your host, Hunter Metnick, here with my co-host, Zach Vinci. Say hello, everyone.
What's up?
It's been a while. It's around 2 months. So much has happened since we have done it. I've done a couple on my own to talk about like the playoffs and stuff like that. But honestly, I feel like the off season is where we thrive the most. That's kind of my. Although we all love the actual games and everything. The off season is arguably the most eventful time for actual NBA fans because there's always stuff going on. There's the smallest of trades that can make the biggest of impacts later, and all the rumors and everything are just so fun to talk about.
Yeah,
I was going to see if you had anything to say, but with the NBA draft happening last night, we saw a bunch of trades. When I was looking through the draft picks, it seemed like every single second round pick had about 4 different teams attached to that pick. So I was trying to really figure out who was going where. It's so hard to watch the NBA draft. I was with Zach last night watching the draft actually, and we were like, all right, so this guy just got picked, but he's getting sent to this team via this other team. And so it was just crazy. But first round definitely had a lot of surprises. We saw the blockbuster trade that the Los Angeles Lakers got to make and a couple other really exciting trades that have happened since we've last talked. But before we get started on talking about our reactions to everything going on, be sure to just like the live stream. If anyone's joining, please feel free to comment your thoughts on anything we're talking about. Please ask questions. I know a lot of the times the questions are based off of random topics that we're not talking about. We'll answer them. We don't really care. We're just here to have fun and talk about the NBA. So there's a lot happening, a lot of different places you could be coming from. So maybe in the comments, if you're coming from, our Instagram page, shout out to the Instagram page. If you're coming from, I just rebranded the entire YouTube channel, which a lot of people, I don't even think you knew this, Zach, but the entire YouTube channel has been rebranded into with the new our Backcourt Press logo, a lot of different Backcourt Press kind of stuff. So yeah.
Our 1v1 better still be on there.
Oh, it is. The music videos are still on there too, so we don't have to worry about any of that. But without further ado, let's get right into our NBA draft talk. I mean, to no surprise, we saw Cade Cunningham, the best prospect in the draft, go number 1. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you want to say something before we get started?
Well, first off, I was just thinking about this today. You know what's insane? We're only 2.5 months away from the NBA season beginning. We're only 2.5 months away. That's wild.
Yep.
As much as these players are complaining about the short off seasons and the injuries and all that, yeah, that all sucks. But as an NBA fan, we're about to start our 3rd NBA season in the last year, basically.
Yeah.
And that's wild to me. I'm loving it.
Awesome.
I mean, we had to suffer through that, what was it, 6 months off because of COVID, which was brutal. And since then, it's just been nonstop NBA action, and it was totally worth it because I'm loving every second of this.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's talk about the draft. Cade Cunningham, everyone knew he was going to go number 1. He was my number 1 prospect. I'm sure he was your number 1 prospect as well. Speaking of Cade, I mean, I think we can all – it's not really worth comparing him to anyone else in this class because we knew he was going number 1, and we knew he was going to Detroit. My question to you is, because this was asked to me by someone yesterday.
Okay.
As a prospect, do you like Cade Cunningham more or LaMelo Ball more? You could start a team.
It's so close because they're both similar molds. I think LaMelo is more of an outside scorer. The one that, Josh Giddey. No, I'm kidding. Okay. My reasoning for taking Cade is the fact that with LaMelo, I know he's going to be my point guard for the future, right? What I've seen a lot in Detroit is that there's a lot of rumors that they might move Cade to the shooting guard or small forward position. And I think that Cade's versatility on both sides, that he could guard 1 through 3. He could also offensively play 1 through 3. I think he's a better off-ball player than LaMelo was.
Sure.
I think he's a better slasher, although the shooting, I'll probably give a little slight edge to LaMelo, but we also haven't seen Cade shoot. We haven't seen Cade shoot in the league yet, so obviously we can't really gain that opinion. I thought Cade played great in OSU, and if you watch a lot of those games, I actually listened to a podcast where the Oklahoma State coach was talking about like his game plan, like what you do with Cade Cunningham. And I mean, if you watch, Cade Cunningham was driving in to like 3 or 4 guys every play and kicking it out to his teammates. And the other teammates were just not making their open threes. I don't care if you're on the worst team in the league like he is in Detroit. If a Detroit player gets an open 3, 90% of the time, they're probably going to make it. So that's why I would probably have to agree with you and go with Cade Cunningham, although it's so close because LaMelo could end up having a better career.
Right. I'm taking Cade just because I think he has a higher ceiling. I know we were laughing yesterday because Cade's comparison was Luka Doncic in the draft, which I feel like we're going to see Luka Doncic comparisons to at least one player in every draft for the next 20 years.
And no one is going to be Luka Doncic.
No one is going to be the next Luka Doncic.
No.
But Cade, on the other hand, he could be. I'm being completely honest here. Cade has the impact on the floor where he makes everyone around him better because, as you were saying, he attacks the rim so well. And he can just beat his guy off the dribble. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. He's got the talent. He can beat anyone off the dribble and penetrate the lane, get down to the rim. And then all of a sudden you have everyone crashing defensively. And you have open shooters all around the arc. Oklahoma State was not a very good three-point shooting team, as you said.
Not at all. And they got open looks.
Yeah, and I mean Cade was still doing his thing, and he's going to work better at the NBA level. And he was great in college, and he's going to be even better in the NBA because when you put guys around him who are actually NBA level players, he's going to elevate them. He's going to make these Pistons players look so good. And I know you said he could play anywhere 1 through 3, and I think that's very similar to Luka in that way too, where, I mean, people really couldn't figure out Luka's position until this year. I feel like people kind of realize he's a point guard. But, I mean, I've seen Luka his rookie year and his sophomore year. He was considered a small forward at times. He was considered a shooting guard at times. And I think we're going to see pretty much the same thing with Cade. But in the end, Cade's going to be the one with the ball in his hands, especially in Detroit where they really have no other pieces at the moment. Yeah. I don't really think Jeremy Grant will still be on the team next year. Killian Hayes is probably the next closest thing you have to a potential star in Detroit. Yeah. And I've been a big fan of Killian for a while now. But Cade's going to make everyone around him better. He's going to get a lot of guys open looks, and he's going to elevate this Detroit team to playoff contention, whether it's next year or the year after.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Killian and Cade can really succeed as a backcourt, even though a lot of people are saying it's going to throw Cade's just going to overshadow Killian now and everything. Killian was hurt for a lot of the year. We really didn't get to see him play at his full potential at all. Yeah. And I'm still very high on Killian Hayes. I think he could be the starting point guard, and Cade could be like the starting shooting guard, could be like a Jalen Brunson, Luka Doncic type thing in Dallas.
Yeah.
I think that's like a very good comparison. I really like the Cade Cunningham comparisons to Penny Hardaway, though. I've always thought that was a fun comparison just because you know how much of a Penny Hardaway fan I am, and a 6'8" point guard who can handle the ball and play solid defense. I see a lot of Penny Hardaway in him, and to me, there's just not going to be another Luka Doncic, so I even compare anyone to him.
That's fair. I think I actually compared when I did my rookie comparisons a while back, I think like 2 months ago, maybe.
Penny.
Penny was my comparison for Cade. Mm-hmm. Looking back, I still think it's a fair comparison. I think Penny had a slight athletic advantage over Cade.
Yes.
Whereas I think Cade is going to be a much better playmaker than Penny was. But overall, I definitely see. I mean, 6'8" point guard who can beat anyone off the dribble and play really good defense. I mean, definitely the comparisons there. You mentioned Killian Hayes. What I want to point out about Killian is this past year, as a rookie, he averaged over 5 assists per game. As a rookie who was playing, I think it was somewhere between 20 and 25 minutes per game.
And he was coming off the bench too.
He was the number one playmaker on Detroit, coming off the bench, only averaging 20 to 25 minutes, and he was creating for his teammates very well. Obviously, we saw some shooting issues with him. I think he only shot like 35% from the field. His true shooting was not very good, but I think Killian has that playmaking mentality as well as Cade does. So you put these two guys together, and I think they're going to create a lot of offense in Detroit. Detroit's gonna. I think we're going to see a return of Motown basketball fairly soon. These two they're gonna make the Pistons an exciting team to watch again.
Yeah, it's also with young point guards, or not even point guards, but just young guards in this league. You really have to give them time to develop. It's very rarely that we see a point guard right out the gates, even if he's drafted in the say 3 through 10 range, that comes out and plays amazing. in his first year. That very rarely happens. That's why LaMelo was probably such an incredible pick, because although he was like the number one prospect, at that third overall pick, we rarely see point guards come right out the gates and perform well. Like I think Darius Garland this year could average 20 and 10, but in his rookie year, he was looked at as the worst defender in the NBA and was shooting horribly from the field. And it's like, you just got to give these guys kind of like Damian Lillard, Jamal Murray. These guys didn't start out their careers great, but they just handled themselves. Sexton, but they just continued getting better and better. And I see the same thing with Killian as long as he's just given the opportunity. But I truly don't believe Dwayne Casey in Detroit's going to really mess up any of the young guys, like including Sadiq Bey, including Isaiah Stewart. I only see them getting better with Cade Cunningham. For sure.
Detroit has a bright future. Absolutely.
I completely agree. And another team with a really bright future is the team that had the number 2 overall pick, who when I just made my post on the Backcourt Press Instagram page, I had them as winners of this NBA draft, not just because of their number 2 overall pick, which was Jalen Green. I'm talking about the Houston Rockets, obviously, but I thought that overall they had a very solid draft. They ended up trading up into right outside the lottery into the 16th overall pick to get Alperen Sengun, the Turkish MVP last season at just, I believe he's 18 or 19 years old, which is just crazy because we're both over here 18, 19 years old. And so it's really scary that this would have been the year that we went into the NBA draft, if you really think about it, which is scary. And then also they had 2 late first round picks, which it's crazy to say the Houston Rockets, a lot of people were saying they barely got any return for like James Harden and stuff. The fact that they were able to walk out of this draft, their first draft without any superstars, with 4 first round picks, including Usman Garuba and Josh Christopher. I really thought the Houston Rockets hit the money on their draft picks, although I know that you have a little controversy about that number 2 overall pick. I'm not gonna sit here and say they made the wrong pick, because the fact that I think Jalen Green could be a very good scorer in this league, and the Rockets drafted for fit, which I don't really understand that. To me, if you're a rebuilding team, you go best prospect available. But it would have been the same weird situation for Evan Mobley if with Jared Allen in Cleveland or Christian Wood in Houston. I like the Jalen Green pick. I think he has the potential at least to be the best scorer in this draft. And I also liked a lot of their other picks. What do you think about Houston?
I have no issues with any of the other moves they made after the number 2 pick last night. I really like Usman Garuba. I think that was a really good pick late in the first round that I think is really going to pay off for them in the future. And then obviously the trade for Sengun, no issues with that either. Going young, I can't argue with that, especially
Josh Christopher.
I mean, Sengun was picked outside the lottery too. A lot of people had him going in the lottery, so they got. You could say they got 2 lottery guys. I think Sengun could be considered a lottery type player.
Yeah.
I think they screwed up at number 2, and I feel like I'm one of the very few people who's been saying this. You look at the media, NBA fans in general, pretty much everyone has Jalen Green as the solidified number 2 player at this point. I've been seeing more people have Jalen Green in the same tier as Cade rather than Mobley and Suggs in them. I don't know. Maybe I'm not watching enough Jalen Green. I mean, I've watched some clips. I haven't watched him extensively. Mm-hmm. I've watched some clips. I've seen him play a little bit. And I'm mostly going off of, I don't dislike Jalen Green. I think I had him as the 4th best prospect in this draft, but very interchangeable with Jalen Suggs at 3. I actually think Green has a higher ceiling than Suggs, so I think a team like the Rockets who's rebuilding, Green makes more sense than Suggs. I don't understand why they passed up on Evan Mobley. Maybe it's just me, and we'll get to Mobley soon. So yeah. I'll shelf that discussion for a second. I just think Evan Mobley is the best big man that I've seen come out of college since Anthony Davis, and they took a guy who can a scoring guard, and everyone wants a scoring guard, of course. They got a guy who could be a Donovan Mitchell, who could be a Devin Booker, someone like that, which is fine. I don't think that's gonna elevate them enough to be contenders, and not even contenders, but to be a playoff team again in the next few years. I think the Rockets rebuild is going to take a while, and I think a lot of that is going to stem from the fact that they didn't take Evan Mobley at 2. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with your. I really do like Mobley as well. The more I've watched him, and the more I've looked at advanced statistics when it comes to his defensive presence, I just keep getting wowed about how just great of a defender he is. But at the same time, the reason I would say I understand the pick for Houston is that they just signed a guy like Christian Wood on a steal of a contract, I think that they really wanted to give him the keys to that center position. And if they're going to want to continue having him as your big man for the future, if they really do believe Christian Wood is that guy, I wouldn't risk him possibly leaving because of the fact that Evan, you know what I mean by that? Like they don't want to like mess up their relationship with him to draft a guy like Evan Mobley, who I think he does have a lot of upside. But if there's a scorer like Jalen Green, I mean, we just saw, I could see Houston going out and just working on their front court way in future drafts and focusing on their backcourt right now. But I kind of agree with you.
I get that. But a team that drafted for fit instead of best available was 1984 when the Portland Trailblazers thought they already had a great shooting guard in Clyde Drexler, which they did. So they took center Sam Bowie instead of Michael Jordan, who was also a shooting guard. Christian Wood. I've always been a fan of Christian Wood. I think he's a top 10 center in the NBA, and I think he's only got the potential to go upwards. But we're talking about a guy who could be the best center of the next generation, the next decade.
Who's also listed as a power forward a lot recently from what I've been seeing.
Yeah, I've seen both Mobley and Wood are versatile enough to play power forward too.
Which they both are.
Especially with, I think Mobley's been developing his shooting a little bit too. I think eventually he's going to have a very nice shooting touch in the NBA.
We all know about Christian Wood's shooting. That's what made him such a good player right now.
I really think a Mobley Wood front court would have made Houston given Houston one of the best front courts in the NBA. Especially given like maybe 2 years or so, but that's fine. Jalen Green, I don't dislike Jalen Green. I don't want anyone to get that impression from. I think Jalen Green is going to be fantastic. I just think that Mobley is that good that it's a mistake to pass on him.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm interested to see what they end up doing with guys like John Wall or Kelly Olynyk, because now they don't really fit the timeline of this team. As I think that they could run I think the starting five right now would probably be Kevin Porter Jr. at the 1, unless they're going to run like a weird lineup of like John Wall at the 1, KPJ at the 2, Green at the 3. I don't really know what's going to go on because I also don't know who's going to take on John Wall's $44 million.
And Green doesn't have the build to play small forward. He's only has a 6'7" wingspan.
So it's like, are you going to run Jayshawn Tate at the 3 or the 4? Possibly Kenya Martin Jr. could slide into that 4 spot, who I really think could be a fun player to watch next year. Christian Wood hopefully will come back healthy after his most improved player for like half the season this year. So, I mean, I'm excited for this Houston team, but I do agree with you that Mobley should have been the pick.
I'll tell you what, though. I think Green could work out really well if you run Jalen Green at the 2 and Jayshawn Tate at the 3. Yes. I love Jayshawn Tate this year. I think he was a top 5 rookie. I was a huge fan of his. You watch Jayshawn Tate, and this guy just knows the game of basketball.
It's efficient.
He has such a good basketball IQ. He takes the right shots. He makes the right plays. He works his butt off on defense. He's I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar, but Jayshawn Tate is going to be a very, very good starter in this league for almost his entire career, I believe. And I think his defense paired with Jalen Green's scoring could be a really good 1-2 punch for the Rockets. So that I'm excited to see that.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, this year, Jayshawn Tate started 58 games for this team as I believe, was he a late set or undrafted rookie?
Undrafted.
Yeah, and he put up 11 points on 50% shooting from the field. Yep. And he 1.2 steals, 0.5 blocks, 5 rebounds per game. This guy has a good future.
This dude's going to be the next Robert Covington, Jay Crowder type player. He's going to be the type of guy that every team wants to have as a guy to fill in your starting lineup.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to that Cleveland Cavaliers talk, because I feel like this might be the weirdest team this offseason now with this Evan Mobley pick, because I know a lot of people are saying, oh, we're going to draft Jalen Green at 3 and move on from Colin Sexton, or it's going to be we're going to draft Evan Mobley and move on from Jared Allen. But now there's recent reports that they want to keep Jared Allen around. Colin Sexton welcomed Evan Mobley to the land on Twitter when he got drafted, yet all I've been seeing is Sexton's going to get moved. This team's in a very, very weird situation right now. So let me hear your thoughts on Cleveland and what you think is going to happen next year, because I couldn't tell you.
As much as I love Evan Mobley, there are we've talked about this. There are a few NBA teams out there that they just don't know how to run. They don't know how to run their franchise. We talked about it with the Kings before. We've talked about it with the Timberwolves.
Yes.
I think the Cavaliers are right up there. I mean, they lucked out in getting LeBron James. Because if
And
you take
Kyrie
LeBron,
Irving.
yeah, I mean even Kyrie, if LeBron never even went back to Cleveland, Kyrie's not doing shit in Cleveland.
True.
If LeBron James is not a part of this franchise, we're talking about the Cavs as arguably the worst franchise in NBA history, right next to the Timberwolves, the Clippers, the Kings, all of those teams. It's atrocious how bad that the front office has been at managing this team in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, they had LeBron James from 2003 to 2010, and they couldn't put any competent teams around him. I mean, this was the best player in basketball for like 6 years, and they couldn't do anything.
Mo Williams and Big Z. That was it.
They couldn't do anything to surround him with the talent to win it all, which makes me really scared for Evan Mobley, who's I've mentioned, my favorite player in the draft. I have such high expectations for him. I think he's going to be a superstar.
Possibly not in Cleveland.
I'm worried about the direction Cleveland's going to go. I think re-signing Jared Allen would be a huge mistake for this team.
I agree with that.
I think it would totally impede Mobley's development as the big man that they're focusing on to develop. And I don't know. I don't think you can run Allen and Mobley together. I don't think that's going to fit very well. I think the Wood Mobley fit would have been a lot better than the Allen Mobley fit, because Jared Allen does not move outside the paint. He camps down there. And I mean, he's a great defender and all. And I think a Mobley Jared Allen defensive front court would give a lot of teams nightmares. But offensively, you're clogging up that paint. I don't think Mobley's developed enough of an outside game yet to be a consistent a perimeter player to allow Jared Allen to just run on the inside. And I think that would take away from a lot of Mobley's dominance offensively. So I think Cleveland should definitely focus on getting rid of Jared Allen instead of keeping him around, or, I mean, relegating him to a backup role, which I don't think he would want to do. I don't think he would sign with them if they were going to give him a backup role. But I think that should be their main focus. I still think Garland and Sexton can work. I haven't given up on that backcourt. I think, again, that's more of Cleveland not putting the pieces around the two of them to make it work. If I'm Cleveland, I think I might give it another year with those two, especially with Mobley running down low. I think Cleveland could make a little bit more waves this year.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at it, the first thing that came through my head when Mobley was drafted was we're probably gonna end up seeing a Jared Allen sign and trade now for a solid like defense, like 3-and-D forward. That maybe like a team like, I don't know, Boston could use like a Jared Allen, because he's still on his cheap contract. If they could undervalue his contract for possibly only like 20-25 mil, they might be able to pull off a decent. I'm just saying a team that needs a defensive mind center.
Boston doesn't need a center, dude. They have Al Horford. They have the best center in the NBA. Come on.
I forgot about that stud of a player. Cleveland's weird right now. I really hope that they do just run with Mobley. I don't really. To me, it was like putting Evan Mobley and Jared Allen on the court together is like last year when the Lakers had Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond on the court together. Like it completely messed up Anthony Davis's role. And we all know Anthony Davis thrives so much more when he plays the center position, or at least the biggest man on the court.
Yeah.
And when he's not, and he's forced to step outside and shoot threes, Mobley's not right now at a point in his career where, obviously as a rookie, where he's going to just sit at the 3-point line and score, because that's not what he's good at right now. So I'd be really frustrated if they end up bringing Allen back, especially if it's like a multiple year deal and then he ends up actually staying with the team and stuff. I would be pretty frustrated with Cleveland, but honestly, it's probably what they're going to do because that's the Cleveland way of doing things. So
yeah.
I do really think that Mobley is going to help develop Darius Garland's game to another level, though. I think that that pick and roll duo, because we haven't really seen Sexton or Garland with a really good pick and roll player. I mean, Andre Drummond, unless he's putting up 30 and 30, which has been one time in his whole career, he's never been a great pick and roll player, or even a good player in general. So I really do think Mobley can open up the games of Sexton and Garland. But from what it seems like, the Cavs are such a bad front office, they just don't want to give Sexton even $20 million a year to stay with the team. So I would be surprised if we see Colin Sexton wearing a Cavaliers uniform this year.
I feel bad for Colin Sexton. This dude has been playing his heart out for this team for 3 years now. And I mean, he struggled a little bit his rookie year, but the last 2 years, he averaged wasn't it like around like 23 points per game this year for them? You got all the numbers in front of you.
I got it right here.
I mean, Sexton was scoring so well for them this year. I mean, everyone remembers that game against Brooklyn, the over, or it was a double overtime game, I think it was, where Sexton just went off, dropped 40 plus. I mean, I'm a big Sexton fan. I think he could be a total stud in the NBA. And I don't think Cleveland has given him the right chance. I know you're bigger on Garland than Sexton, but I could totally see them giving those two another shot. You throw Mobley into the mix, a bona fide superstar. I think it could work. I think Cleveland should give it one more shot. Get rid of Jared Allen, run Garland, Sexton, give Okoro another year starting.
I like Okoro.
I think Okoro could still develop and be a really solid player. Run Mobley at the center. I don't know what they're going to do with Kevin Love, but I think Cleveland.
Kevin Love would open the floor great up for Mobley, though, if they end up keeping him around. So
Exactly. Don't be surprised if if they run a lineup like that. Don't be surprised if Cleveland's pushing in for the play-in game this year.
Exactly. Sexton this year averaged 24 points on 47% from the field, 37% from three, 4.4 assists as not really the primary ball handler.
And this dude's playing out of position.
Yes, exactly. So I'm excited to see what Cleveland does, as long as they don't make the wrong moves, which honestly, knowing Cleveland, they're probably going to. So, now we got the surprise of the draft. We all know who the top 3 prospects were. I saw a lot of reports before the draft that the Raptors were locked in on selecting Jalen Suggs to be that next Kyle Lowry type player. And then next thing you know, they surprise everyone with the 4th overall pick and take the high work ethic guy that just moved his name up through draft combine and draft workouts and everything. Scotty Barnes out of Florida State with the number 4 pick. A lot of people compare him to like Draymond Green with a better offensive game. I want to hear what your thoughts are on this draft. I know this probably means that Pascal Siakam is on his way out. The reason I like this pick is because I think Fred VanVleet finally gets to run that point guard position, which we've been wanting to happen for so long. So let me hear your thoughts on this pick.
I mean, the Raptors are probably the team where I have very little idea on what they're going for right now. I think they could go a number of ways with the direction that they're taking the franchise. The first thing that went to my head when they took Scotty Barnes was, I don't think they're going to want Ben Simmons anymore. I know the Raptors were probably the leading candidates to get Ben Simmons, but a Barnes-Simmons team would be ridiculously stupid on Toronto's part, because then you're getting 2 very similar type players running together, and Simmons has to work with 4 guys who can shoot, or else Simmons isn't going to work at all. And even then, Simmons probably still won't work. But I actually really like the Scotty Barnes pick.
Okay.
I had Suggs and Kuminga ahead of Barnes, but I think it was close enough where it's not a bad pick if they really like him. I watched him a lot at Florida State, and the thing I'm interested most to see is what position they're going to play Barnes at, because he could play point guard, he could play small forward, he could play power forward. He played a lot of point guard at Florida State in college. That's also because Florida State doesn't have a guy on their roster under 6'8". So, of course, Barnes was probably I think he was like one of the smallest guys on their roster at 6'8". So he played point for them, and he's a good playmaker for his size, and that's what I really like about him. And scoring, that'll come, especially his outside shot is a little streaky right now. He could hit it at times, but most of the times he's very inconsistent shooting.
Hey, at least he shoots it.
Yeah, right. At least he tries. But he's a playmaker, and he's a damn good defender. He is a really good defender. And I think that's a part of his game that's going to show immediately in the NBA, because he's got the athleticism, he's got the versatility that his defense will make an immediate impact for Toronto, and he's also a good playmaker. The scoring will come. He's such a well-rounded player, though, that I think this is a very good pick for Toronto.
Yeah, when I saw a little bit of rumors on like some YouTube videos and like just ESPN stuff I was looking into, and I saw a lot of rumors that the Raptors might look to trade for Miles Turner. And when I saw that, I was like, if you run a lineup of Fred VanVleet at the 1, Gary Trent at the 2, OG Anunoby at the 3, say they have to give up Pascal Siakam in a trade. So say Scotty Barnes runs that 4 spot, and then you got a guy like Miles Turner, Chris Boucher at that 5 spot who could spread the floor and let Scotty Barnes attack the rim. There is very little team scoring at the forward position against OG Anunoby, who to me is one of the most underrated defenders, possibly a top 3 defender in the NBA, and top Scotty 5. Barnes. Yeah, I'm really high on OG. So I think that team could definitely be a really good defensive team, be a playoff team. If Fred VanVleet, I think with the ball in his hands most of the time, and with Kyle Lowry out of there, I mean, that Toronto Raptors team could push to be a 6 or 5 seed in the East. And I think that's the direction that you go. The only issue, and I also think that could be a team that could attract a free agent in upcoming years if they can find the money to do so. If you could get a star-studded like shooting guard to put next to those guys, that could turn into a championship team with one extra player, as we saw with Kawhi Leonard. So
interesting. Maybe I'm not as high on Toronto as you are. I think if they lose Lowry and Siakam, I think you can count them out of the playoffs for the next few years at a minimum. I like Van Vliet.
Free agency definition.
Yeah, I like Van Vliet. The thing is, we've never seen Van Vliet operate as anything outside of a third or fourth option offensively. This year he was more of a second option, so I'll give him a little bit of that. But it'll be interesting to see if they do get rid of Siakam, if they do get rid of Lowry, how Van Vliet will react to being the primary scorer, the primary ball handler on the team. I'm not sure it's a position that really fits him, so we'll see how that goes.
That's honestly what I'm saying. Why not?
But, I mean, defensively, I forget Miles Turner. I think Chris Boucher is already just as good as Miles. Okay, maybe not just as good, but I think he could be just as good in a year or two. I wouldn't even focus on getting Turner. I think Boucher, they should focus more on Boucher. But if you got a front court of Boucher, Scotty Barnes, and OG Anunoby, that is very, very good defensively. That is going to be very tough to score on. And then you got Van Vliet and Gary Trent as the offensive players in that lineup. I don't think that's a playoff team, at least not at the time being. But I think, Toronto might be a place, especially in the recent success, that free agents want to go. And Scotty Barnes, I think, is going to fit into Toronto's plans no matter what they do.
Yeah, I mean, you covered Scotty Barnes pretty much. That's where I was looking more on the other side of the team because they have a lot of questions to answer. And I think this year could be like that retooling year. Not, I wouldn't say a rebuilding year or a contending year, but just a retooling year to see, can Fred Van Vliet be that point guard of our team? Could he make a little bit more than he has in the past? Depending on what they have to pay a guy like Gary Trent, because I'm pretty sure he's like number 1 on the Toronto Raptors free agency list, because if they lose out on Gary Trent, then that Norman Powell trade looks horrible. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Raptors team does this year. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I know I shit on the Raptors quite a bit this past year, mostly because I think their fans are unbearable. But you have to take into account they were not playing in their home city. They had no home court advantage this entire year. I know a lot of teams didn't too, but I mean they're not even playing on their home court. They were playing in Tampa, and a lot of teams were getting.
They weren't even in their home country.
Yeah, right. and a lot of teams were getting their fans back in by the second half of the season. The Raptors don't have many fans in Florida, so get them back in their home stadium. The Raptors dealt with more COVID issues than just about most other teams in the entire NBA. They were hit hard midseason. There was a point where they were number 4 in the East. They had a couple COVID issues. 2 weeks later, they were down to 12. So I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Toronto. I think they're gonna retool a little bit and have a different team back next year. But I won't count them out as playoff contenders, especially if they're able to keep Siakam and or Lowry.
I completely agree with that. Got anything else to say about Toronto before we move on?
I really want to talk about Orlando.
Okay, so yeah, here we go. We'll just do 5 and 8 together because
I was just gonna say that.
Those two picks pretty much will match up with both of them. So with the sorry, that's just that number 8 pick is something interesting. So we'll talk about 5 first off. Jalen Suggs falls to the Orlando Magic to be their 17th point guard on the roster now, under the age of 24. Competing for the job with Markelle, RJ Hampton, Cole Anthony. These guys. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Suggs is probably going to win this battle because Suggs is the only one there that seems to have an IQ for basketball. But the Magic went in a route. They took the best player. That is okay, Mark. If he can shoot, then good. Finally, good for him. But the Magic took the best player available. I think the Magic should have been very happy with this pick that Suggs fell to them at 5. As I saw him right when after the NCAA tournament, he was looked at as like the 3rd best prospect, and then Jalen Green shot up, and then Scotty Barnes shot up, and then Kuminga shot up, and people are like, "Oh shoot, where does Suggs fall now?" Falls to the Magic at 5. What do you think of the Magic pick with Suggs?
I can't argue with it because they took the best available player. I've been pretty consistent with my opinion on Jalen Suggs since the middle of the college season, at least, that I think Suggs is going to be a very good NBA player. I think he has a much lower ceiling than anyone else that was drafted around him. I don't see Suggs being a star in the NBA. I think.
Yep.
Okay, I'll retract that statement. I see Suggs being a very much like a Malcolm Brogdon type of player, a guy who will be a very good starting point guard for you, but not an all-star. I mean, I think he could be an all-star, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent all-star. Suggs can do everything. He is probably the best all-around, besides Cade, because Cade's in his own class. But Suggs is probably, outside of Cade, the best all-around player. He can do everything out there. And he has very, very few weaknesses. I don't even think I could name you a weakness. His outside shooting can be a little streaky, but most college guys are coming into the league, so I can't even argue with that. There's just nothing that Suggs does exceptionally well that I think will really land him a great role in the NBA as a star. So that's my take on Suggs. And being in Orlando, that's probably one of the last places I'd want to be as a young player at this point in their career. I think Orlando's been trying to figure things out ever since Dwight Howard left, and they haven't accomplished anything in that regards. And
except
right now,
he's going to be a stud for them.
Yeah,
mark my word.
I hope so. I just hope injuries haven't hampered him. I've been saying for a while, I really like Chuma Okeke, their pick 2 years ago, who sat out his entire first year in the league. Played a little bit this year. In my opinion, I watched the Magic only a little bit this year because really, who wanted to watch Orlando? But when I was watching them, Chuma Okeke was probably the best player on the court for them after the Vucevic trade. So, I'm not on the Cole Anthony bandwagon at all. I think he's terrible. But I think either you run Fultz or Suggs, and I like Hampton a lot too. I like all three of those guys. You got to hope one of them hits, right? If you're Orlando, you got to hope at least one of these guys is going to be a superstar. I mean, all four of these guys have been lottery guards in the last 5 years. So you got to hope one of them hits. I think Suggs is going to end up taking that role out of all of these guys. But in terms of the Magic, I don't really see them going anywhere in the next few years. Next 5 years, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, and then it seemed like at that number 8 pick, they chose a guy that was known for going to a team and helping them win now. That was the verdict with Franz Wagner, and he went to the Orlando Magic, who will probably win a maximum of like 19 or 20 games next year. I know both of us are not very high on Franz Wagner. He's coming into the NBA as a solid defensive player. I think that's his best quality, is his defense and hustle. And if you're taking a guy at the 8th pick who is a good hustle player, I'm not sure that's going to pan out so much for you. So what are your thoughts on Franz Wagner and his fit with the Orlando Magic?
I will say that we just shit on them a lot for taking so many guards. And at this point in the draft, it was Wagner, and pretty much everyone else in the top 5-6 players available was all guards. So if they didn't want to take another guard, which I understand, Wagner was probably the best pick. So as low on Wagner as I am, I'm fine with it. If I was Orlando, I think I would have traded down at this point. I don't think any of the guys available were good enough to be the 8th pick with the fit that they needed. But I watched him in college a lot, and I was so unimpressed. I was watching him, and I didn't get any NBA vibes from him at all. I thought he was an okay college player, probably the 3rd best player on Michigan last year. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing him in the first round of NBA drafts. I'm like, okay, potential, maybe he's got a brother who's in the league. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing him top 10, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I don't see the potential, man. I don't see what they think he's going to be. I mean, I will be utterly shocked if Franz Wagner is anything more than a 10-point per game type of player, bench role player. Like, I don't see the talent at all. I don't see the potential. I mean, I see a solid role player at best. I don't know about you, but that's just my take on
I saw some people comparing him to like Andre Karolinko, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, that is so. Andre Karolinko at least had somewhat of an offensive game.
Andre Karolinko was the best forward defender of the 2000s, and undisputed in my opinion. There was no small forward who was better defensively than Andre Karolinko from 2003 to 2008. I mean, that's like best case scenario, absolute best case scenario. That's a high hopes right there.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna be. I mean, I can agree with you where they didn't need another guard. So drafting a guy like Book Knight or Moses Moody or even Davion Mitchell would make zero sense after you're given the keys to Suggs and hoping Markelle comes back healthy and all that. The only thing with trading, I'm guessing that they got their guy because to me, Wagner's like a worse Kuminga at like everything. That's kind of how I looked at it. And so I feel like the Magic were probably like Kuminga, but they just wanted like the secondary Kuminga in this draft.
I was going to say Wagner is Kuminga without the potential. Like if you took what Jonathan Kuminga is now and said he's not going to get any better, I think that's what Wagner is. I don't see the potential in Wagner. I think Kuminga, we'll talk about this in a minute. I think he has unlimited potential, and I don't see any potential in Wagner.
Yeah, the only thing with trading down if you're the Magic is I know like I heard rumors that the Kings gave like a draft promise to Wagner that was like, if you're there at 9, we're gonna take you. So after Wagner, I didn't see many great forwards until you get to like the 17th pick. I'm going to forget his name, and I hyped him up so much. Or Trey like Murphy. I know the 10th, Trey Murphy or Zaire Williams went with the 10th pick, but everyone thought of him as like a reach in the draft. Yeah. So I mean, if you wanted to take a forward and you couldn't find any good available trades to trade down, that pick makes the most sense. I still would have liked to see Suggs and Bouknight run it as their guards next year. I thought that would have been a really fun duo because you have like Bouknight's like shot creating and his 3-way scoring next to Suggs playmaking. I was really hoping we'd see that in Orlando, but we're gonna see Cole Anthony instead taking the game-winning shots in Orlando. So it's the Orlando Magic. If any one of these guys can pan out, good for them. It's real quick. We got a comment. Thoughts on LeBron winning another ring? We'll get to that later, but that's pretty funny.
Wait. Well, while we're here, though, I mean, we might as well talk about the Westbrook trade because that doesn't really fit in anywhere else. The Lakers didn't have any draft picks tonight, so we might as well talk about Westbrook trade right now. Yeah. I'm very very passionate about this, so I'm going to talk about it if that's okay with you for a little bit.
I'll sit back. I like this.
I'm very, very frustrated with people on social media who are acting like Russell Westbrook isn't going to make the Lakers better. And this is coming from me. Who I mean, I don't know.
You don't hate him, but you
I don't hate Russell Westbrook. People who know me and who've listened to my basketball takes for a while know that I am lower on Russell Westbrook than 95% of NBA fans. I think he's immensely overrated at this point in his career, and I think a lot of people overhype him way too much. That said, are you freaking kidding me? This guy averaged a triple-double this year. He's Russell Westbrook. He was an MVP a few years ago. And people think he's not going to make the Lakers any better. I don't give a damn about spacing. Russell Westbrook is Russell Westbrook. And you're pairing him with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Forget the spacing. You can put shooters around LeBron. You can find them in free agency. That is not going to be an issue at all. But you know what is going to be an issue? LeBron declining. That is the number one issue the Lakers might have to face this year. And I'm not saying he's going to decline, but he's getting up there in age. He's 30. He's going to be 37 next playoffs. 37 years old is old as shit for an NBA player, especially an NBA player who everyone considers a top 5 player to be still. I think Russell Westbrook is going to take so much slack off of LeBron's shoulders in terms of carrying the offense that LeBron is going to become more of an off-ball player, and I think that's going to benefit him so much. I think it's going to make it so that he is not getting as burnt out as he was this year. I mean, you saw when Anthony Davis went down, games 4 through 6 in Phoenix, LeBron in the second half it didn't look like he was trying. And I'm not going to question LeBron's work ethic because he's the second greatest basketball player of all time. I think it has to do more with fatigue. I don't think he physically could keep up anymore. And I think his body is starting to fail him a little bit. And I think that's where Westbrook comes in, because if anyone can run an offense and put guys in the places they need to be, other than LeBron, it's Russell Westbrook. I mean, this is a top 10 playmaker in the NBA. Already pairing him with LeBron. Okay, that's too far.
Top 10 playmaker in NBA history. He's probably up there.
I can name you 10 better ones.
Top 20.
That's a conversation for another day. In the NBA today, I think Westbrook's top 5 playmaker at minimum, at the most. What he's gonna do is he's gonna take so much relief off of LeBron's shoulders, and that all you have to do then is ask LeBron to take over at the end of games. Because if you let Westbrook run it for the first 3 quarters, and then LeBron comes in the clutch situation, that's going to help LA tremendously. And I mean, I've been so high on Anthony Davis all year, and I think Anthony Davis is going to reassert himself as a top 5 player in the NBA next year. I think this is going to be fantastic for LA. I think they're heavy favorites to win the West at this point. I don't even think another team's close to them. I think at this point Denver would probably be my number 2 now with Kawhi's injury. Clippers won't be as high up for me. I think Denver's your number 2, and I think they're a ways away from a Westbrook, LeBron, Anthony Davis core. I don't care what you put around them. Get a couple of good shooters to throw next to them. Done deal.
You're gonna laugh at me
NBA Finals. What?
You're gonna laugh at me for this because this trade has made me reconsider a lot of arguments that I made in the past with you. Because I know this trade makes me rethink when we would talk about like what the Warriors were going to give up in their trade. Because, you know, we had like this great package where it was like Wiggins, Wiseman, 7 and 14. This is before the draft. Because obviously after the draft, I'm actually very happy with our draft. And I think that although we might not be contenders next year, I think if we end up sticking with this team, we're going to have an incredible future still. So like I'm very happy with the draft. If we couldn't find a good trade package for the guys, for the trade pieces we had, we got the best players that we could have gotten in the draft. So that I'm very happy about. But we said a lot of the time, what would I made the argument a lot that what would you rather have around star players? Would you rather just throw talent around them, or would you rather put fits? And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, if you're the Lakers, would you rather have Russell Westbrook or Buddy Hield as your third star? And to me, like when I saw that, I was like, who in their right minds is going to say, I want Buddy Hield instead of Russell Westbrook? Like that's like saying I want a top 20 shooting guard in the 15 to 20 range over a top 8 point guard in the league. Russell Westbrook could be as inefficient as he wants. If he's putting up 22, 11, and 11, and you're telling me a guy averaging 17 points on 39% from the three is going to help you win a championship more than Russell Westbrook, that is a joke.
It's absurd.
They also didn't even have to give up Taylor Horton Tucker in a sign and trade, which to me was the biggest trade because they still have this guy. The fact that they had to give up Montrezl Harrell, who at the end of the season was getting DNP coaches' decisions. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm like, because Montrezl Harrell probably could have helped them out, but I'm saying that happened. They had to give up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Kyle Kuzma, who got offered to all 30 teams in the entire league, apparently. Like it's just like, yeah. Why I don't understand. Like some Lakers fans I've seen like mad, like that they didn't get Buddy Hield, and it's like, why? I don't understand that one bit.
I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot Montrezl Harrell was on the Lakers until yesterday. Like,
it's funny because they said they like picked up his player option because they were like, no one else is gonna pay you fucking $10 million a year, so take our $10 million.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing of value that the Lakers lost in that trade was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who I've always thought was pretty underrated. He was their best 3-point shooter this past year. And
in that championship run.
I was going to say he was fantastic in the finals in 2020 for them. So this just increases their need for shooters even more than before, which was already their number one need. But you can fill that. I mean, hell, Danny Green. Get him back there. I mean, I want Philly to re-sign Danny Green, but you can find shooters. There's no shortage of 3-point shooters in the NBA. There's a shortage. Buddy buckets, baby. No, there's a shortage of superstars. There's a shortage of guys like Russell Westbrook. There is one Russell Westbrook and nobody else like him. You can find other guys like Buddy Hield out there. And obviously not everyone is going to be as good of a shooter as Buddy Hield, but you can find 3-point shooters. With the amount of defense that Westbrook, LeBron, and Anthony Davis are going to draw, I said it when the Nets traded for Harden that Joe Harris just became the most valuable player in the NBA because he's going to have literally wide open threes every single time. And what happened? Joe Harris had wide open threes every single time.
He just missed him in the Bucks series.
But the Lakers just need to find something like that, and it's over. It's over. I mean, I don't even think anyone in the West is even close to the Lakers right now. The only team that I would put ahead of the Lakers right now would be the Nets, and I think it's close. I think it's very close. people are. I don't even know what it is. I don't know if it's just people trying to discredit LeBron or discredit Westbrook, because I know they're two of the most hated players out there. It's ridiculous, man. It pisses me off that people are acting like this doesn't help the Lakers out. This is better than everyone. At the end of last season, everyone talked about how great of an offseason they had getting Schroeder and Harrell, and how the champions were just getting even better. And now they get Russell Westbrook, and people act like they're getting worse. Like that, it's just absurd to me. It is absolutely absurd.
Here are some guys that are unrestricted free agents that are older players, but they are going for like the minimum. Like you could sign them for the minimum, right? Etuan Moore, Jeff Green, Wayne Ellington, Alex Caruso, James Ennis, Wesley Matthews, Mo Harris, Kent Bazemore, Austin Rivers, Solomon Hill. Say why not? Tyler Johnson, why not?
No, we're getting a little too far with Solomon Hill.
But like,
here.
you know what? Okay, but I just named what, 6 guys that are just minimum older guys.
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson's a free agent. Like you know what I mean though? Like there's Ben McLemore literally played for this team next year. Like Ben McLemore played for them last year.
Ben McLemore was solid for them.
Yeah, these guys aren't good players. They're not going to get paid more than $3 million in free agency, but that's good for you because you guys don't have more than $3 million for a player to like trade for.
Get JR and Dion back or something,
dude. Yes, like you might as well just sign guys that listen. If I'm gonna give you 7 open threes a game, hit 3 of them a game, and you're set. You are set with this Lakers team. By the way, the last time, I know this is going way back, and this isn't really an argument I'm gonna make. But if I'm going back statistics-wise, 1, 2, 3, 4. Russell Westbrook's 4 best three-point shooting seasons. None of them were higher than 33%. I just think that's funny. But
that's completely expected.
2010 to 2014, when he was playing with James Harden and Kevin Durant, for most of them. Obviously, James Harden got traded at the time. But when he was playing with 2 other very, very good players, his three-point percentage was over 30%, which it hasn't been now for like 6 seasons. Russell Westbrook, the reason he's missing so many threes a game, Russell Westbrook 2 seasons ago took 6 3-point shots a game. That's not his game. Back when he was shooting 3 a game, and they were probably open looks because it's a Kevin Durant driving kick, he's going to make 1 out of 3 a game. Like I'm not saying Russell Westbrook's a good shooter, but if you put me taking like 5 threes a game, I'm probably going to make 1 of them a game. Like that's just how the NBA works. These players aren't bad players. So I'm not saying he's going to help with his spacing because if Russell Westbrook's going to come at you, you're going to back up. Like you're not going to stand there and say, hey, you're going to say, hey, Westbrook, shoot the 3. But stop saying Buddy Hield is a better help for the Lakers than Russell Westbrook. Like I don't understand. Or Miles Turner. I saw those rumors. Like Miles Turner would be the worst fucking player to put next to Anthony Davis. So I love it. I think this just made. If I just want to say, I know you talked a lot about the Lakers. If we see a LA versus Brooklyn finals, obviously this would be without injuries and stuff like that. Yeah. Dude, you have what? Kyrie versus LeBron. That history. You have Harden, Durant, and Russ. That history. You have like the history that you have the Durant versus LeBron rivalry. The Westbrook and Harden not working out against each other. The rivalries you'll see in that series would to me would make it probably the best NBA Finals us two have ever seen with our two eyes.
Imagine telling someone
so crazy.
Imagine telling go back to 2018, right? 4 years ago. Imagine telling someone then that LeBron James, who had just 2 years ago won 2060 finals, undisputed best player in the NBA. Kevin Durant, probably the undisputed 2nd or 3rd best player in the NBA. James Harden, the 2018 MVP. Russell Westbrook, the 2017 MVP. Anthony Davis, 2018 was the first time he won a playoff series and was undisputedly the best big man in basketball. And Kyrie Irving, who had just gone to Boston and was about to lead his own team or had failed to do so. But you get the point.
And Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan.
You told somebody all these guys would be in the same NBA Finals together. They'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Dude, it'd be the greatest. I truly believe it'd be the greatest 7-game series me and you have ever watched with our own 2 eyes.
Oh my God, it would be amazing. And
I don't care who else is touching the ball. Those 3 guys on each team are going for 50 all. Like it would be the great. I saw that earlier, like the history and like how far you could go back with these guys. I would be so, as a Warriors fan, I would be so happy to see those 6 guys battle it out.
That's what I'm rooting for.
I'm rooting for it too. There's been too many times now where people have said, "Oh, Battle of LA. Oh, I want to see a Brooklyn LA finals this year." Like I want to see that finals. I don't care how much you want your team to go to the finals. The ratings will go up. The NBA, it would be the greatest thing for the NBA. Like honestly, and I would just that's all the talk we'll say about that. Like the Lakers trade and everything like that. Yep. Well, if Bradley Beal doesn't request a trade for the Wizards, what the hell is he doing there, man? Like. Yeah. Oh, but honestly, real quick, I saw you had something to say. I am rooting for Kyle Kuzma, dude. I hope he comes out next year and drops 20 a game and goes like 45% from the field, 38% from three. Like, I hope he comes out and drops 20 a game for that Wizards team because that would be the best thing ever.
D'Lo, Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, Jordan Clarkson. I'm probably missing some more.
LeBron and they go play great.
It's not even LeBron. I mean, because some of those guys didn't even play with LeBron. It's just the Lakers' development team is so bad, and it's always been so bad. And I think Kuzma could be the next one of those guys. Before we get back to talking about the draft, I want to answer your question because we didn't even really talk about it. Thoughts on LeBron winning another ring? Look, I would honestly be thrilled, and that's probably a big change.
What?
Some people who know me, who've been rooting against LeBron for the last couple of years, I think I in my opinion, if the Sixers are out, I root for what I think the best story would be, and I think the story of LeBron James after everyone's counted him out this year, and especially Anthony Davis too, because I'm a full in on Anthony Davis next year. I would love to see the Lakers win it all next year. I would love it. I think it would be fantastic. I want LeBron. It's like with Tom Brady, right? I hated Tom Brady for so long in New England. And this past year, I rooted for him in the Super Bowl. I was like, fuck off. We only have a few years left of watching this guy. Let him go. Let him keep winning. That's fantastic. I would love to see the same thing with LeBron. It would be great to see LeBron win one next year. I'm just – after this year and seeing all the shit that LeBron had to go through, I don't think I've ever seen LeBron criticized more than I have this year. This man does not deserve that. Yeah, this man does not deserve that. Let's back off of LeBron. And storyline purposes, LeBron winning the ring next year would be awesome. So I'm rooting for it.
Wow, those are words I never thought I'd hear. You're hearing it first, guys. I've heard this man say LeMickey more than I've heard him say LeBron over the past year.
He's still LeMickey.
So if he wins back-to-back rings these next 2 years,
don't even ask me about the GOAT debate. My mind's never changing on that. My mind is never changing on the GOAT debate.
No,
I think we're past the point in LeBron's career where he could pass Jordan. I don't think it's possible anymore because at this point, unless LeBron is just absolutely absurd, goes 2018 mode the next couple of years, I don't think LeBron is going to be the best player on a championship team again in his career. I think if the Lakers win it again, it's going to be Anthony Davis, who's the best player on that team. And obviously, I think LeBron will still be a top 10 player in the NBA, and he'll still obviously have a huge contribution on that team. But I think it would be Anthony Davis's team. I think that's
Anthony Davis is the Bucks defense. You know what I mean? Like the Bucks. That's a stupid comparison, but without the Bucks defense, Tom Brady's not getting to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's fair. That's how I see it. I think that the Lakers moving forward are Anthony Davis's team. And I think LeBron is going to be obviously a huge part of that. But I think their success will depend on how well Anthony Davis plays in the playoffs.
Better be healthy.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, we didn't mean to talk about the Lakers for 20 minutes.
I love it. But really quickly, I'm just going to pull up this because I don't know if this is true or not. But if this happens, I'd be so mad at the Phoenix Suns. That's all I got to say.
Any word? Did it happen?
I haven't seen any tweets from Woj or Shams or anything like that. So until they say something, it did not happen.
Did you hear about the Tristan Thompson trade?
I did. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I mean, is there really much to talk about?
It's a 3-team deal, and let's go. Sacramento got their big man of the future. They got Tristan Thompson. Atlanta gets DeLon Wright. Boston gets Chris Dunn, Bruno Fernando.
Chris Dunn's on his 4th team in 5 years now.
Hey, if he's gonna do it, at least he's gonna get playing time in Boston. That's all I gotta say. Because who's he backing up? Carson Edwards? They have no point guard. Peyton Pritchard, I guess, is their starting point
Peyton
guard.
Pritchard.
So, I mean, this trade's not. Hey, Atlanta getting DeLon Wright, kind of a good pickup for them.
He's the best player in that trade.
He is.
He's the best player in that trade. That's honestly
that 2023 second round pick could be, that's probably right now, that's probably the best player. He's in Grace's, my sister's grade. So he's probably better than
Hey, all I'm saying is last night was the first time that someone was drafted that's literally younger than us. So I can't even talk about that.
Honestly, yeah. All right. So now we've gone through 5 picks in the NBA draft. So it's time to move on to number 6.
Wait, 6 if you count talking about Orlando's number 8.
Well, yeah, that pick doesn't count. We're going to talk about probably the biggest surprise. I know we were all talking about Scotty Barnes. Was probably a big surprise, but real quick story time. No one's going to care about this, but I think it's funny. We were at Tully's. If anyone knows what Tully's is last night, that's where we were watching the NBA draft last night.
Best tenders on earth.
Yes, and my buddy is an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, and I obviously am a Golden State Warrior fan. And I was trembling during this Oklahoma City Thunder pick because in my head, I just wanted the Warriors to draft Jonathan Kuminga. I was literally shaking so bad. And then the Thunder did the impossible and took the 18-year-old Australian bucket, Josh Giddey, the 6'8" point guard who has, according to some, he's like a point forward, but apparently he has no skills according to the media. Because I saw this picture going around that said his weaknesses, and it said on ball defense, IQ, shooting, interior offense, athleticism, and someone was like, "Oh man, this guy's weakness is basketball." I love that. I love the NBA media, man. So
the funny thing about that too is, how when every player was drafted, they would list 3 positives for each player on the bottom, like 3 skills they were really good at. They only listed 1 for Josh Giddey.
Really? It's funny, dude. I'll let you talk about the pick first. I am actually high on Josh Giddey. I really think this guy's going to be a good player for that Oklahoma City Thunder team.
I'm actually going to turn this one back to you because, as you know, I'm mostly a college basketball kind of guy. I've only seen a few clips of Giddey. Haven't really watched a full game of his. I don't really know much about him. So I'll turn this one back to you.
Dude, I mean, man's average 11, 7, and 7. Like in overseas, you rarely see guys average. I mean, you'll probably see a guy average a little more points, but seeing a guy average 7 and 7 overseas rarely happens, especially when he's supposed to be your starting point guard. The one thing I really like about Giddey, he's just tall. I know that sounds like a stupid positive aspect to his game, but when he's doing a pick and roll with another big man, his 7 inches that he's going to have over a guy that's guarding him, say the other guy's 6'3", 5 inches over that guy. 5 inches is a lot. So it's Josh Giddey being able to see over the defender on a pick and roll. That's going to give him that's going to give him the offensive, just I really like this pick. I think him and his playmaking next to Shea's shot creating, I really think this is the backcourt of the future for OKC.
See, I used to think having a tall point guard would help, but then I watched Ben Simmons for a few years, and that's completely changed.
At least Josh Giddey tries to shoot the ball.
I don't know. One of his weaknesses was outside shooting, so
that is true. I gotta look at this. I gotta look at his
I'm not 100% certain on Giddey. I haven't watched him play enough to form a for sure opinion. All I know is he's supposedly supposed to be a really good playmaker. So, and every team can use a good playmaker. He fits the Thunder's timeline well. Think about it. He'll be right. We talk about he's young guys who are still young. We feel like have been in the league forever. 7 years from now, 6 years from now, 6 to 7 years from now, Josh Giddey will still be 25 and under. We'll still be talking about the best 25 and under players in the NBA.
In
6 to 7 years from now.
In 8 years, he'll be Giannis's age right now.
Yeah.
And Giannis is a young player.
Yeah. So I mean, this guy has all the time in the world. So I don't think we'll hear from Giddey for a while. I give it about 3 years before I think he'll really explode onto the scene. I don't think we'll see much of him the next year or two.
Yeah. The 2 things I heard that Giddey is best at in in basketball are his pick and roll and his transition. Like, I think I heard he thrives in the transition. I heard he thrives in the pick and roll. And those are probably the two most important things in today's NBA. Like, you see the pick and roll used more than ever in the NBA right now. And transition, the pacing of today's NBA is high as it's ever been. So for those two reasons, I'll take Josh Giddey. I think that they probably could have traded down because I really didn't see the Warriors, the Magic at 8, or the Sacramento Kings taking him. I think the Grizzlies probably could have taken him to be that shooting guard next to Ja. But I probably would trade down with like the Kings because I think the Kings could have used like a Kuminga or Franz Wagner more than they got with their pick. But with the Thunder, why trade down when you already have so many first-round picks? You don't really need more assets. You might as well just say, I'm going to get my guy at 6 and stick with it. So when I was making my post earlier about winners and losers and surprisers of the NBA draft, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, the Thunder lost this draft because they could have gotten their guy later. I just think it's a surprise. It was just a surprise pick. I don't think they lost it. I don't think they won it. This guy's 18 years old. He's also going to be learning next to one of the best young players in the NBA in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and he's going to be getting so many minutes a game. I don't think this pick was a bad pick at all. I also don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think it was a surprising pick that could pan out.
It's a pick that I don't think we can rightfully judge for a few years.
No, but at the time it was a surprising pick.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure.
So that's really all I gotta say about Giddey. I think he could be a stud. But we'll see.
Yep.
His TikTok was funny. Actually, I saw his TikTok, so that was pretty funny. Moving on, might as well throw in both picks while we talk about it because the A++ draft from this NBA draft came from my Golden State Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga, the guy that Warriors fans wanted, ended up sliding all the way down to 7 after being looked at as a top 5 prospect for, it seems like, months on months now. He ends up falling to the 7th overall pick, and the Warriors end up getting their defensive-minded small forward who has a lot of upside. And we also, at the 14th pick, got a guy that, to me, I had him projected to possibly go to the Warriors with the 7th pick in the draft. Moses Moody, the shot-creating, solid defender out of Arkansas. I probably have a lot to say about this draft. I am stoked. I am super excited about the fact that we had to draft with these picks. I was not happy about in the first place, but with the outcome of this draft, this to me was our best case scenario for what we could have gotten. I want to hear your thoughts on the Warriors before I go talk about it.
Yeah, you'll probably have a lot more to say about this than I will. As I told you yesterday, I thought the Warriors were the number 1 winners of this draft. They had 2 guys who I had in my personal top 8, Kuminga and Moses Moody. Kuminga, obviously, like I said earlier, has limitless potential. I think I made this comparison a little while ago, and I think it's like absolute ceiling. But I truly believe that if Jonathan Kuminga reaches what he could be, I think he could be Dominique Wilkins. Like I'm being dead serious about that. I think that if he needs to develop the offense a little bit more. He's still very unpolished offensively, but he has the tools, he has the build, he has the athleticism that this guy could literally do anything. I don't think he's going to contribute much right off the bat, and I think you'll probably disagree with me. I think Golden State should look to trade him immediately. He doesn't fit their timeline. The Golden State should be trying to win right now. I think they should literally trade all of these young guys for a win now piece. But as an actual player, Kuminga was by far the best available on the board when the Warriors were up. Potential is limitless. I think if he were to get traded to a young team that I think he could really try and blossom on. As for Moses Moody, I also love Moses Moody. At Arkansas, I think he was a top 5 to 7 player in all of college basketball this year. As we saw, they had a nice little run in the tournament behind him. I mean, he's a 3-and-D kind of guy. He can score the ball. I mean, he can shoot the ball pretty well, but he can score from pretty much anywhere on the court. He's a really good defender. I think he's going to come in and he's opposite of Kuminga, where I think Moody can come in and contribute immediately for a team. So obviously two great players, 2 guys who I think are going to be great players in the NBA. Good draft for Golden State. I don't think it fits them though. I think they should look to trade both of these guys as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this trade as if we don't trade them, just because it seems like right now it just doesn't seem like we are going to trade them. Everyone was saying, if we're going to make the big move, we're going to do it before the draft. And draft happened, and we got drafted 2 guys, and now it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. So, you saying Kuminga is not going to produce right off the bat, I agree completely. I think that's why we drafted Moses Moody, was because I think Moody's like a win now kind of guy where I think he could come in and immediately average about 10 points off our bench, 10, 3, and 3 on solid efficiency. I think that's the kind of guy Moody's going to be in his first season. The thing is, though, with Kuminga, saying we don't make a single move, right, into going into this next season, and we run it with Andrew Wiggins at the 3, Wiseman at the 5. Kuminga is going to be our 7th man in our rotation, probably getting about 20 minutes a game. And probably running most of that small forward position, or he's going to come in when Draymond Green goes out. And to me, he's not going to have to produce that much. Like if he produces like 8, 4, and 3 in his first season, I'd be stoked. Like to me, that's like exactly what I want out of him. Obviously, I hope that he comes in and in our first season he takes Andrew Wiggins' starting spot. Like I think that would be amazing because I don't like Wiggins that much as a Warrior fan. And I really am high on Kuminga's defense. But I think Kuminga could also learn a lot from Andrew Wiggins. I know that sounds stupid, but like Andrew Wiggins has probably a top 15 mid-range shot like for that small forward. Or he has a good mid-range shot for that small forward position. We see him do his little through the leg step back, and he gets to that mid-range spot every time. That's kind of what Kuminga's lacking, is just that shot creation. Because to me, Kuminga can get into the paint. He can bully ball guys. He's 6'7" 6'8" with a 7-foot wingspan. He's 210 pounds. He could bully ball at that small forward position, especially when the amount of defense that's going to be going into Clay and Curry, because no one really knows what Clay's going to do when he comes back. So people are going to play him like they played him in 2019 until they go for it.
Kuminga's also 18 years old too, which I thought was interesting. He's also younger than us.
He's super young. Like and the man's is 6'8" and 18 years old.
Yeah.
His ceiling
is I think he's listed at 6'7", but yeah.
Yes, 6'7". It's like he just has good size. He's able to play the small forward, and then when Draymond Green comes out, he's able to play the power forward position. He's very versatile on defense. I could see him turning into like an OG Anunoby player in about 3 years, where he's just a very, very, very good defender. I think he'll be a better driver, where OG's probably going to be the better shooter. But like I really do like his potential. And I do think he can come in and contribute because we're not asking him to come in and put up 15 a game. You know, like we're not going to look at Kuminga and say, hey, as an 18-year-old, we're going to put you as our starting small forward, and we want you to average 17, 5, and 5 as our starting small forward. We're bringing him in and saying, hey, can you get us? If you could bring us 12 points off the bench, because Kuminga could probably bully ball a lot of those second unit small forward guys. If he could come in and just provide a spark off the bench, which a lot of young guys tend to do in this league now. I mean, we see that all the time where a young guy that just got drafted comes in and puts up 6 straight points, and the other team has to call a timeout, and everyone's getting hype over the 19-year-olds who just did that. If Kuminga could come in and do that, and steal his valuable minutes, if he could just come in and do that, I'd be thrilled with him at just 19 years old in his first season. And I think Moody could come in and contribute off the bench. I think he'll be a great shooting guard next to Jordan Poole off the bench. I really, really like that. I mean, we're going to run a starting 5 of the guys I said, and then our bench 5 is Jordan Poole, Moody, Kuminga, Juan Toscano-Anderson, and Kevon Looney. To me, that's a top 4 seed in the West right there. I don't know if that's going to compete with the Los Angeles Lakers due to the fact that probably not, because we don't have the interior defense to stop that. But listen, Steph Curry has another MVP year, which, I mean, there's nothing right now saying he's going to decline. And we could get a solid Klay Thompson back. This is going to be a scary team out West.
Agreed. I know we talked at length about this in our IG Live the other day.
Yeah.
I personally think Golden State is just completely missed opportunity if they decide not to trade some of these young guys for another All-Star. But I don't know. We'll see. I just personally don't think the team that they have right now is currently constructed to win a championship. But we'll see.
If you look at it, no one said Phoenix was constructed to make it to the finals. You know what I mean? Though there's anything can happen in the NBA season. So if the Warriors are the only healthy team by the end of the season, and we can win a ring off that, sure, I'll take it. But if Steph Curry gets hurt in the first week of the season and goes down, it's over. All teams healthy, I don't see us probably winning the NBA championship unless Klay Thompson can come back and average 25, 4 and 4 and be the same efficient Klay Thompson.
Even before his injury, he couldn't average 25.
Yeah, exactly. If everyone comes back and Kuminga can provide a spark, I could see us being that third team in the West, right behind Denver and LA, due to the fact that I don't see Utah coming back and being as great as they were. Obviously, they could be such a good regular season team, but I think they're going to do the same thing without I don't know. I don't see Utah being a big playoff threat. And I think I'll take the Warriors over probably most of those other teams out west. It's just when it comes down to it, if the Lakers and the Warriors go at it, even if we had traded for a guy like Pascal, I really don't see us beating that LA team. So it's gonna be interesting to see. I'm excited for the development. I mean, if you were to say 2 years ago when we lost to the Toronto Raptors that the Warriors would have arguably a top 10 young core in the NBA in 2 years, I would have been like, you're kidding me. But now, to me, we probably do. And so with just Wiseman, Moody, and Kuminga, so I'm thrilled for the future as a Warriors fan. I obviously want to see Curry get another ring. If that happens, I don't know. Hopefully it does. As a Warriors fan, I'm going to be rooting for Kuminga and Moody to come out and average 15 a game. But we'll see what ends up happening with the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
We're also pretty good developing players. You know what I mean? Like we've been known for doing that. So that's why I'm excited about these guys.
All right. Let's power through the rest of this lottery. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks to talk about in the next 13 minutes. Let's power this out.
There's not much to talk about with this next pick. The Kings select Davion Mitchell, 22-year-old point guard out of Baylor. He's gonna be that fourth guard in the rotation behind De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Haliburton, and Buddy Hield. Unless Buddy Hield ends up getting moved, which I would expect to happen. I'm not that high on Davion Mitchell because I saw him rumored to the Warriors a lot, and I didn't like that fit. Go to the Kings, have fun. Let me know what you think about this trade or this pick.
All I'm seeing the moment they drafted Davion Mitchell, the Sixer fan in me is saying they just drafted another guard. I'm thinking, wait, De'Aaron Fox, Buddy Hield, Tyrese Haliburton, Davion Mitchell. Three of those guys being primarily point guards. Could De'Aaron Fox be on the move? And if so, to Philly?
It's a perfect fit. Ben Simmons is now a perfect fit for Sacramento.
That's my thought, though. That's my thought. I mean, they might have been just drafting for best available, and at this point, I do think Mitchell was best available. Him or Boone Knight, either one of them, or Moody. Obviously, those three I think were all pretty close at this time. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think this bodes well for Sacramento keeping De'Aaron Fox. I really think that with Mitchell and Haliburton being their last two draft picks, I don't think that they're planning on keeping Fox and Hield. I really don't. Especially Mitchell's a guy who I think is going to come in and contribute immediately. I know I was much higher on him than you were. This was a guy who was the best player in the tournament this past year, March Madness. Davion Mitchell was the number one guy. And he was fantastic. An amazing on-ball defender, a really good three-point shooter, a guy who can get his teammates involved. I mean, this guy, he can do so many things out there on the floor. Really good 3-and-D type of perimeter guy. He's not an overrated shooter. Get the hell out of here with that overrated shooter.
66% from the free throw line over 3 years.
There's more to shooting than free throw shooting. Okay?
I agree with that.
Yeah, you know who else who shot 60-something% was Giannis Antetokounmpo, shot 60-something%. And look what Giannis just did.
You're comparing Davion Mitchell.
Get the hell out of here with that. Hey, they both just won the biggest championships in all of basketball in this past year, Mitchell and Giannis. So I'm going by what I watched. And when I watched Davion Mitchell in college at Baylor, he was the best player in the tournament, with the only exception being Jalen Suggs. Jalen Suggs is the only player I think you could argue was better in the March Madness tournament than Davion Mitchell. Mitchell is fantastic. He was the engine behind Baylor. Baylor was dominant in this. I picked them to win it all, no biggie. But Davion Mitchell's so good, and I hate to see that his career is going to be wasted in Sacramento. But glad to see that they'll likely be trading Fox because of it.
You hope
move
so.
on to the next one. Hopefully. If they don't, I don't know what the hell they're doing. But
yeah, I agree. Because I think, honestly, when you were saying Ben Simmons, like for Fox, you put a playmaker around guys like Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell. Like these guys are just pure scorers, in my opinion. Like those two guys are just pure scorers. And obviously Davion Mitchell can play defense too. But like they don't have a playmaker outside of De'Aaron Fox on their or Tyrese Haliburton, I guess, on their team right now. But Tyrese is still such a young player that like he's a do-it-all type player. Yeah. You put a good playmaker and good defender around these guys, that could be an upside for Sacramento. So I really like that. I really like that fit for both teams. Fox for Simmons swept. But we're going to move on to the Memphis Grizzlies pick at number 10. They traded their second best player away to draft a prospect in Zaire Williams, a 6'8", super lengthy guy. That's all that he's 185 pounds, is 6'8". I don't know what his wingspan is, but it looked like it was like 7'2" when we were watching his highlights. Mans could jump through the roof. I mean, there's not much to talk about this guy. I don't really understand them trading Jonas Valanciunas for this pick and also taking on 2 pretty bad contracts. To me, Zaire Williams was a guy that wasn't even projected to go in the lottery, and they end up taking him at 10, which to me was a reach. But what do you think about this pick?
They traded their second best player to trade up to get a guy they could have gotten at 17, right? So that's the first red flag there. Second red flag is a lot of people are saying they traded Valanciunas to develop Jaren Jackson Jr. as their premier big man. And then they draft a guy in Zaire Williams who is literally a worse Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, the similarities between these guys are pretty astounding. Coming out of college, they were very, very similar players, Triple J and Zaire. So I don't know what the hell they're doing. I really don't. Memphis has always been known for making some really smart draft decisions, especially in the past decade, past 5 years. They haven't missed on many picks recently. I don't know if that's going to continue with this. I think they really overdrafted him. This reminds me a lot of the Suns selection of Jalen Smith last year, where they really reached on a guy that I think they could have gotten later in the draft. They could have traded down for, or in Memphis's case, just kept the same pick they had, and a guy who he's not going to contribute at least for a few years, which maybe fits Memphis's timetable better. But I just really don't like the fit. I don't like the decision. This was probably the biggest L in the draft for me. It was Memphis taking Zaire Williams at 10.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't understand the direction Memphis is going, especially after just being a playoff team and surprising all these NBA fans, like defining the odds and building a great deep rotation. I just don't understand the direction they're going anymore.
Ja came out and dropped 30, average like 32 in the first round this year, and now you're basically telling him he doesn't get to be in the playoffs the next 2 years. Like, come on. That's frustrating. I don't know. I disagree with that completely, but
Ja to the Pelicans to play with Zion confirmed. No, we're gonna move on to the 11th pick in the draft, which to me was probably one of the best picks in the draft, and James Bouknight went to one of the teams that won the draft. We'll just throw in him talking about Bouknight and Kai Jones really quickly because I think both of them were tremendous pickups. I know you had Jones getting drafted 11th to the Hornets, but he fell all the way to 19th. But the Hornets draft James Bouknight, probably going to be that shooting guard of the future when Terry Rozier asks for a bag in a couple years with Malik Monk on his way out, most likely in free agency. Drafting James Bouknight, a 3-level scorer, can create his own shot, plays good defense. I love the fit next to LaMelo. Talk to me.
Me too. No, you just said everything I was going to say. I think he's a great fit next to LaMelo. I really like this pick. He was the best player on the board. Him and Moody.
And
I think either one of them. I think him and Moses Moody would have been a great selection for Charlotte. They went with the guy who's probably a better offensive threat, which I think makes sense because I think LaMelo is a really good. I think at least he'll develop more into. He's very athletic, be a very good defender in this league. So you can put a guy who is a pure, straight to the bone scorer, and that's what Bouknight is. Bouknight's going to score the ball, and I think that's exactly what Charlotte's going to need in 2 years. I don't think he'll come and contribute immediately for them. But in the long term, this was a fantastic draft pick. Kai Jones at 19, I also think they got someone who I think was a potential lottery pick down at 19. They needed a big man. They got a big man. They've needed a competent center for about 15 years now. So hopefully that can be Kai Jones. I know he might be slightly undersized for a center, but
so was Bam Adebayo.
I'm a big fan of both of these picks for the Hornets. I definitely agree with you that this was Charlotte is one of the number one winners of this draft.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. I also got JT Thor in the second round, who I think has a lot of upside. Just want to throw that out there.
Yep.
Spurs drafting Joshua Primo, who a lot of people didn't even have in their first round of the NBA draft mock drafts. Drafted the youngest guy. I believe he doesn't even turn 19 until December of 2021, which is absolutely incredible if you really think about it for us.
Well, 2 months of the season. 2 months of the season will progress before he turns 19.
Thoughts on the pick? Obviously, real quick. I'll just say this. Popovich knows what he's doing. I'm just frustrated that the Spurs front office didn't even look to trade down. They probably did, but they didn't find the right pick or trade. But I feel like they could have traded down even to, like, I don't know, 18 with the Thunder, and the Thunder could have drafted a guy like Moses Moody or Chris Darte or even like Sengun, who I thought would have been good fits for the Thunder and young guys. But Spurs decided to take a 18-year-old out of Alabama.
Look, everyone's really been shitting on this pick, and I really like it. Primo was one of my guys, a sleeper of mine. That obviously I didn't expect him to go this high, but I thought he was going to be someone that was drafted in the 20s. That would be one of those guys you look at 10 years from now and be like, wow, that was a steal to get back in the 20s. The Spurs just must have really liked him even more than I did to take him this high. But I think his game translates so well to the NBA.
Good shooter.
Again, Popovich normally nails his draft selections. I mean, I'm saying it like Popovich is the one making the decisions, which he might be. I really don't know. He probably is.
Gotta have some
look. Everyone acting like this is the biggest loser of the draft right here pisses me off, because I think, the Spurs are not a win now team right now. They can afford to take an 18-year-old who will develop in a few years from now and contribute to what I think is a fantastic young core with DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, and Keldon Johnson. I know you're extremely high on DeJounte Murray. I think he's great too. I've always been really high on Keldon Johnson. I have no issues with this pick. I actually think he was a really good pick. Obviously, I think they could have traded down, like you said. But overall, you got a guy who's an athletic wing player who has a great shooting touch. What more do you want in an NBA player? Like an athletic wing who can shoot the ball, and he's a good defender, and he has good basketball IQ. Like, people are I don't understand why people think this is a bad
normally pick. Your prime starts when you're 28 years old. That's 10 years from now. We're gonna have kids by the time he's going into his prime.
Oh, don't say that, man. My first kid's gonna be being born. I'm gonna be checking has Primo hit his prime yet?
Primo's still in the G League in 5 years. He hasn't done shit in the NBA. We'll rapid fire through these last couple picks. You go from drafting an 18-year-old to the Indiana Pacers, another mediocre team, drafting a 24-year-old point guard, pretty much the next Malcolm Brogdon, in my opinion. Any thoughts on Chris Darte? He'll probably come in and help you win a couple games, but besides that, I don't really like this pick.
Take it or leave it. I think it was a reach for the lottery. He's a solid player, but he's much older. And I think it's a good idea to take an older player if you're trying to contend immediately. The Pacers have been stuck in that NBA purgatory for 10 years now, and it doesn't seem like they're getting out of it anytime soon. This was probably one of the weakest picks in the draft to me. That's all I really got.
Yeah, and then we already talked about 14, Moses Moody. You want to talk about Corey Kispert at all, going to the Washington Wizards?
Look, I was going to shit on – I've been planning to shit on Kispert this whole time because I thought Kispert was going to get drafted lottery for sure. I actually thought he might even be top 10. He went outside the lottery, so I'm not going to shit on him now. I think Kispert is the perfect player to be drafted between 15 and 25. I thought if he was lottery, it would have been an overdraft. I wasn't a huge fan of him. I really don't think he's ever going to be a really good NBA player, but he could come in and be a solid player. He's the type of guy who he needs a system around him. I think he fit Gonzaga's system perfectly, and that's why you saw a lot of success from him. He's a smart player, high basketball IQ. Doesn't really need a lot of. Yeah, he doesn't meet a lot of the requirements that I would use to draft an NBA player. But who knows with the Wizards? Who knows what they're doing? I can't judge this pick right now. I think you could argue he was best available at 15. I probably would have had him even lower, but I take it or leave it with this pick. I've never been high on him, but at 15, it's not terrible value.
He could come out and average 30 when they end up trading Bradley Beal, and he's their number one option next year. So who knows with the Washington Wizards, dude?
I'm telling you, the Kispert Kuzma, that's going to be a star duo right there. Kispert and Kuzma.
Kispert, Kuzma, and Rui Hachimura.
And Robin Lopez.
Yeah. Oh,
Kareem 2.0.
Yeah, I'll go through the rest of the draft real quick and just name some names that that stood out to me in any picks. The 17th pick, I really like the Trey Murphy fit in New Orleans. I think he could be their starting shooting guard / backup small forward. They needed a 3-and-D player because their last 3-and-D player was supposedly Eric Bledsoe, and Trey Murphy is probably going to come in and already be better than Eric Bledsoe. So I really like this pick, and they got Jonas Valanciunas for that pick. I think it was best case scenario for the Grizzlies to be able to get Trey Murphy.
You mean Pelicans?
Yes, my Pelicans to get Trey Murphy.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on? Oh, go for it.
I was gonna say I want to talk about Keon Johnson for a second because
Yep.
Okay.
I was going to bring the next part I was going to bring up was on my post that I just made. I had the Clippers as winners of this draft due to the fact that I really liked Keon Johnson pick at 21. I really liked the Jason Preston pick at 33. And I also actually really liked where is it? I'm just blanking on his name. BJ Boston at 51. So talk to me about the Clippers draft. I really thought they came out of this draft with win.
I mean, to me, I don't know what happened in the last 2 months that made Keon Johnson go from a potential top 8 pick to in the 20s. I really don't know what happened there, but it kind of just sort of happened. And I don't get it because I think Keon Johnson's a top 10, top 12 talent in this draft. And potential-wise, he could be top 5. I mean, he's so explosive. He could, oh my God, he has so much ability. He's a great off-ball player too, and that's something that I really like in prospects. He's a great cutter. He makes a lot of good reads. If you watched him at Tennessee at all this past year, I mean, he always is making the right decisions on the floor. He's a guy who scores off ball so well. He cuts to the rim really well. He's an explosive athlete. He can finish above the rim so well. I think he's gonna improve his shooting a little bit. It's already at a decent level. He's shown flashes of being a decent playmaker too. I think the sky's the limit for Keon Johnson. I think he could be a really good fit for the Clippers. I'm trying to go back.
Primary ball handlers. Like, they don't need another ball handler guy. Like, they already have Paul George, who's a very solid playmaker. They have Reggie Jackson, who we saw facilitate that offense really, really well last year. They didn't need another on-ball player, and getting another off-ball wing guy, I really like that pick.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, I really see Keon Johnson as a better version of Jaylen Brown, I think, if he does reach his offensive prime at least. I mean, okay, I don't know about better version of Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown's defense gives him an advantage over Keon Johnson. That's probably Johnson's maybe his biggest weakness at this point. At least from he's athletic. From what I've watched him, he's not the best on-ball defender, but I think he'll get there. To me, offensively, though, I think he could do so much. And I think his skill set really reminds me a lot of Brown's offensively.
All right. Yeah. There you go. Another winner I had, I didn't actually put this on the post, but I had the Hawks winning this draft. I know you're not too high on Jalen Johnson, but to me, when you have so much depth at that Atlanta team, you might as well take one of the guys in this draft known as a pure prospect, where he could come in and he could just develop. And when you already have your 10-man rotation that like the Atlanta Hawks do, because they're such a deep team, you might as well take a guy that's going to learn under guys like John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, and Clint Capella. Like, dude, what did you say?
I said if he's there when you said John Collins, because I don't think Collins is going to be in Atlanta after this year.
Yeah, and they also thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know much about him. I liked him a little bit because he's a short king, but Sharif Cooper fell all the way to 48 in the drafts. What are your thoughts on that?
I had Cooper going first round. That felt like a huge drop off to me. That's a huge drop off to me. Talent-wise, Sharif Cooper's so good. So good. It's just he doesn't translate well to the NBA that much, so I can see it. I can see it. Okay. I have high expectations for him, though. I think he could be an Isaiah Thomas type of player. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be as good as Isaiah Thomas. But, short guys have come in and contributed before. Muggsy Bogues was a starting point guard for 10 years at 5'3". So if he can do it, anyone can do it. And I think Cooper's talented enough to be able to do it.
Exactly. Another team I thought won this draft was the Brooklyn Nets. They traded away Landry Shamet for the 29th pick to get Day'Ron Sharpe, who I know you're not very fond of, but if it's a big man in that Nets rotation, he's going to probably get minutes because they have Nicholas Claxton and that's it. And then they also drafted Cam Thomas, who's another just offensive-minded player. And if you're learning to play offense behind James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant, your ceiling is Michael Jordan, because those three guys combined are incredible players. So, I thought the Nets were winners of this draft as well.
For sure. As much of a winner as you can be for having such a low pick.
Yeah.
Like, they were so low down, and they did really well for what they were given. So I really liked what Brooklyn did.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say about the Clippers, is like they trade away their whole future for Paul George, and the fact that they're still able to capitalize on first-round picks and even second-round picks, that's just good ownership in my – like, that just shows good ownership. And on the other hand, the Phoenix Suns are trading away Cameron Payne and trading away their first-round pick. I don't know. I'm not a fan of what the Phoenix Suns have been doing recently, but – Just want to put that out there.
We'll see.
Another player I know that I've heard a lot of buzz about is Ayo, your player that went to the Chicago Bulls.
Ayo Dosunmu.
A lot of Chicago players are happy about it. Illinois guy going to Chicago. I saw a Bulls player that was like, "This is the highest I've been on a prospect since Derrick Rose in Chicago." So let me hear what you got to say about this guy.
Look, I've said this about a couple guys already about college this year. If you take away March Madness, because he really choked in March Madness, I'm not gonna lie. You look at just the regular season of college basketball. Ayo Dosunmu was the number one player in college basketball this year. He was the best player in my opinion, the best. I thought Illinois was the best team this year. I know Gonzaga had their undefeated season, whatever. They weren't playing Power 5 conference, not a Power 5 team. Baylor and Illinois were the two best teams this year, in my opinion. And we already talked about Davion Mitchell as being the guy on the one. And you got Ayo Dosunmu, who was, oh my God, this guy. I had so much fun watching him this year. One of my buddies at school is a huge Illinois fan, so I was watching quite a bit of Illinois, and I was amazed at Ayo. I mean, this guy, his mid-range shot, and maybe that's why, because I love guys who can shoot the mid-range well, but he has such a good pull-up mid-range that I feel like goes in every single time, and it makes me so happy to watch. And I think that honestly, the fact that his mid-range shot and his pull-up jumper is his biggest strength might have scared a few teams off, because that's not what teams are really looking for as an NBA prospect. But he's really athletic. He's got such a killer mentality, which you might not have seen if you watched the game against Loyola Chicago in the round of 32. But he definitely, you can tell, he has a really good mentality about the game. He can score the ball better than most can. He's a really solid defender. He's a really good leader, too. This guy can do almost anything. His three-point shot's a little shaky at the moment, but I think that can come. The fact that he dropped that far, I think, is absolutely ridiculous to me. I thought he was a guaranteed first-round pick. I don't know. I think a lot of teams are just scared off that he's a mid-range guy. But, we see the mid-range guys have success. Look at Kawhi Leonard. Come on. Exactly. Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard are the two best mid-range scorers in the NBA. And look at that. That's going to be Ayo.
The last player I wanted to talk to you about, I'll talk to you about two players, back-to-back picks actually. 52, the Detroit Pistons selected Luka Garza. Any thoughts on that pick? I know he was studying college, so pair him with Cade Cunningham.
I loved watching Luka Garza in college. He was so fun. He was the heart and soul and the best player on that Iowa team. That was top 10 team in the nation. Another guy, one of the best players in all of college basketball this year. His game, I never thought his game would translate to the NBA. I really am not expecting much of him in the NBA, but he's one of those guys that you look back on college basketball history in the last 15 years, and I think Garza is going to be a guy that a lot of people are going to remember. In terms of NBA, I honestly wasn't even expecting him to get drafted, so good for him. Good for him. I don't think we'll see much of him, though. Oh, shit. I can't hear you now. I can't hear you. Are you muted, or I don't know, maybe. Oh, shit. That might be something on my end, then. Fuck, let me try my AirPods. Hold on a second. Oh, you are. It says you are muted. It says you're muted. It literally says on my screen that you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you dumbass.
Oh. Sorry about that. My mic got unplugged. That's why. So before we go, I think it's probably the longest time we've ever gone in one of your podcasts, not talking about the Philadelphia 76ers. So I know that they had their first round pick where they drafted Jaden Springer, and then their second round pick they drafted Charles Bassey. Thoughts on those picks at all? Like anything special? Hopefully.
Honestly, I like Jaden Springer a lot. I watched him at Tennessee as the number 2 guy to Keon Johnson. He was fantastic. I mean, he's a 3-and-D player, straight up. He shot, I think, 44% from 3 in college, which is a great rate for a college player. You don't see many guys in college shooting over 40% from 3, especially guys shooting about 2 of them a game.
And he's got a 6'8" wingspan.
He's a really good defender, too. I mean, I really like this pick. You can always use 3-and-D type of guys. And I think Jaden Springer's no different, so I really like that pick. I'm not going to be honest, I haven't really watched much of Charles Bassey. Don't know too much about him. I just know he's got a really big wingspan. I think he's like a 7'4", 7'5" wingspan, like 6 or 7 inches more than his height. And I know he's strong. I know he's built. So
yeah, 6'10", 7'3" wingspan, and 240 pounds.
Hopefully he can establish himself as the backup center to Joel Embiid. I don't know if we're going to re-sign Dwight Howard this year. I think we should re-sign Dwight Howard, but if not, I really hope Bassey's good enough to come in and maybe be that backup center.
Yeah, that's all I got. I just wanted to talk to you about your Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah.
What a draft. What a draft this was. The trades that went down. I mean, there's like 70 different teams that these rookies are going to. NBA, let them wear the hat that they're going to of the team that they're going to, not the team that drafted them. That's got to change very, very soon because it's kind of getting annoying with that. Like I didn't like seeing Zaire Williams walk up with a Pelicans hat on when he knew he was going to Memphis. So it's like, change that. And also, put in some FIBA referee rules because that's got to change. That's all I got all I got.
One more thing from me. I see this pretty much every single draft, and I just want to reiterate it. Especially with this one, which I think is a very strong draft class. I hate when people come in and say, "Oh, this is a bad draft class," like during the draft, before the draft, or just right after the draft. How can you determine this is a bad draft class when we literally haven't seen any of these guys play in the NBA yet? We have no idea. This is pure speculation. Like you and I could be totally wrong on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I'll admit it if I'm wrong on a lot of this. Again, we're speculating. We haven't seen any of these guys play in the NBA. We're going off of what they did overseas and in college basketball, which is completely different to the NBA game. Completely different. So it's really hard to judge on these guys. So just a message to the NBA fan base: stop judging a draft class before we even see them play, or even in the first few years of seeing them play. I don't think you can accurately judge a draft class until at least 5 or 6 years after that class has been in the league. So and I've seen a lot of people calling this a weak class, and I think that's ridiculous because, I mean, even if I was going to compare this to the last 3 or 4 drafts, I think this might be the strongest class, or at least the deepest class.
The deepest,
I think it's a very deep class. I think there's a lot of the late lottery picks I think are better than late lottery picks in recent years, even in the 20s and the second round. So yeah, that's kind of my message. I really don't like when people hate on draft classes before that we've even seen them play.
It's also, you got to remember when you're watching the NBA draft, 50% of these guys that we just talked about today probably will not be talked about in about 2 years. Like there is a good chance that 90% of those second round picks are going to be out of the league. Like that happens in every single NBA draft. So we could be super high on a guy like Jason Preston or Io DeSumo, and this guy, we could never speak about him after 2 years of playing basketball. I mean, we see busts, or not even busts, just players that don't pan out in the NBA all the time. So I made the post today that said like winners and losers of the NBA draft. I don't know if the Pistons won this NBA draft. Like, I don't know if Cade Cunningham gets hurt for his whole career, they didn't win this draft. It's like I'm making that as an initial reaction. I said, you know what? Kai Jones and James Buchanan both came out of college and were very good players. So in my opinion, the Hornets won this draft. Like neither of those players could pan out. I don't know, but I'm going to make like when I'm making posts like that. Yes. Like you see Bleacher, like I saw Bleacher Report. I reacted to an article on the YouTube channel. They did a grading every single team's right off the bat. And like the only 2 teams they gave an A or like draft picks they gave an A+ to was Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham. Those were the only 2 A+ in the entire draft. And it's like, you can't judge a draft until these players like finish their career.
All I have to do is bring up the fact that Patrick Mahomes was given a D. I mean, I know we're talking NFL now, whatever. Just in drafts in general, Patrick Mahomes was given a D, or I don't remember what site it was, or like it was like I think it might have been ESPN, and it keeps getting brought up to this day that Patrick Mahomes was given a D in his grade. And that's all you need to hear. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL now. It doesn't matter.
Tom Brady and Antonio Brown were 6th-round picks.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, I saw a lot of teams hating on his draft pick back in 2013. And look where he is now.
Kawhi was traded for George Hill. Everyone was like, the Spurs, why are you giving up on George Hill? He's such a good point guard.
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah. There you go. So you never know. Again, this is all pure speculation. We're just going. It's an educated guess is really all we're doing. We're taking what we know and applying it to what we think is going to happen. And who knows? We're probably going to be wrong about a lot of these guys, but it's the best we can do.
Minnesota took Ricky Rubio and Johnny Flynn And then the pick after that was Steph Curry. So we could be looking back and saying, wow, Scotty Barnes and Jalen Suggs were taken before Josh Giddey. You know what I mean? That could happen in every
Johnny
single
Flynn
draft
goat,
class.
though.
Johnny Flynn, the go. Facts. Shout out to everyone who watched this. Shout out to Riley Copus for commenting today. We just have fun doing this. This is why we do it.
Yep.
Shout out to I-95 Sports Network. We have a lot of basketball stuff in the works, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe to the Backcourt Press YouTube channel. We're doing so much fun stuff there. We're going to start doing some fun stuff over there. We're both going back to college soon, which means that this grind will continue. Work is finally going to end for us. Thank God. It's been a long couple months of working at Wegmans. But it's been fun. Shout out to everyone just who supports us, and we're going to keep this going for you guys. Thank you to everyone who watched, and it's been fun. Have a wonderful rest of your night. Peace out, everyone.